how are you going to take care of your Corydoras? Well, we're going to fill you in, luckily enough. The first thing you want to do is start with a group. Now, what's the minimum size? Depends who you ask. I personally won't sell less than 3 at my store, and really I'm trying to push you towards at least 6. Now, they're in much bigger schools in the wild, and know that when I say a group of 3 or 6 or something like that, that's of the same type. So if you're choosing panda Corydoras, that'd be 3, 6, 12 of those Corydoras as opposed to 1 bronze, 1 albino, 1 panda, 1 stirby, you know. So you gotta group them up. Safety in numbers with these guys. Now, they are a bottom dweller. They got these little whiskers on their face. They're a catfish, and those are called barbels. And they feel around rocks and wood and debris to find little nuggets of food. Maybe it's a worm. Maybe it's a wafer you're providing it. But that's how they eat. So you got to make sure food gets to them. They're not just a cleaner fish, if you will. They need to be dedicatedly, they need to be fed with a dedicated feeding so that they don't starve to death. It's very common for them to see them very skinny in a store because they're not feeding heavy enough. You want to look out for that. Don't get something that's real skinny. Males and females, the females are going to be nice and plump, or should be nice and plump with eggs, and the males should be little more slender, but not super skinny. And they're usually very easy to breed in an aquarium, especially albinos and bronzes and some of the I guess, cheaper Corydoras. Once you keep them in a group, keep them at, I say at least 72 degrees, all the way up to 82, depending on the species. You can kind of look, like stirbys go a little bit hotter. Salt and pepper Corys or Julie Corys go a little bit on the cooler side, or can. They don't have to. They can go on the cooler side. So you can, you know, figure out what you're going to do. I would say avoid them with goldfish. I know they get recommended sometimes, but the goldfish can get caught on their fins as they bite down on them, and it kind of chokes out that goldfish. Not a good idea. They do absolutely well with almost everything else, though. Everything that won't eat them, they do well with. They're not really an aggressive fish at all, so that works out nice. You get a nice little group of schooling fish going across the bottom. You can get some with some very, very nice colors. Some are really expensive. Most aren't too bad, and they inhabit a different level of the aquarium, which is nice. As far as pH, 6.8 to 7.8 or so, and then aquarium size, well, there's some dwarf species that you could keep in as small as a 5, but I would say your average stuff you're going to find at most pet stores, I personally think kind of 20 gallons and up, and a 20 long is better than a normal 20 high. And in that size aquarium, I would do like 4 or 5. Like if they're a bigger species like the emerald greens, I'd say like 4. If they're a smaller one like the pandas, I'd be like 6 or 7. And get one group of those. Get yourself some schooling fish. Get yourself maybe like an oddball gourami swimming around in there, and you'll have a good old time. They love eating worms, like we mentioned earlier. Frozen bloodworms, live black worms, sinking pellets. They're carnivores. They'll eat it all. They will squiggle down, and sometimes they'll go all the way up to their eyeballs down in that substrate looking for stuff. So when they do that, know that if you have a crazy sharp substrate, sometimes that can be a problem. Now, that being said, I have been in the wild in Peru where Corydoras, and we've caught them, and their substrate was very, very sharp. Now, you just want to make sure the food you're feeding isn't like getting buried in there where they have to dig for it. You want it to be up on the top if you have a sharper substrate. So that's why things like bloodworms and rapashi and stuff that'll sit up on the top there is really good for them, where if you feed like a brine shrimp pellet or a shrimp pellet that kind of like floats away into the gravel, they got to really dig for it, and that's much harder, and it causes microabrasions. The last thing that is rumored / debated / not 100% scientifically proven yet is the Corydora toxin I want to talk about. What is that? They've got a gland that can release a toxin that's toxic to other Corydoras. Sometimes in shipping, they'll release that toxin and kill the whole bag. Sometimes bringing them home, that could happen. In theory, the experts are saying kind of stress them out in an aquarium where you chase them a little bit. They release that toxin, then you net them, and you can put them into the bag. The other theory is you put them into a bag, you stress them out, you net them out, you put them into a different bag. And I myself have never witnessed this. That being said, I do know people that are doing studies, and I do know people that swear by it, and I trust their opinion, but I want to make you guys aware of it. But don't be really scared about it. Like I said, I probably have touched 100,000 Corydoras in my life, and I've never seen it. in person. That doesn't mean it's never happened. It just means I haven't seen it. But I wouldn't live in fear of, oh, it's the Corydora toxin. Like, most likely, if you're killing Corydoras in your aquariums, it's not that toxin. It's something else that we've done as humans. But that is something that could be going on, so don't completely rule it out. And I wanted to educate you a little bit on that. You can research a little bit more, but you'll know, like, man, all the research out there is about that vague. Yes, but there is some scientists doing some work, and we're all waiting for them to publish the papers. They're trying to figure out what level of toxicity actually kills, and what are, well, pretty much all of them are releasing it, but how much and what causes it, and can they replicate it, and that type of thing. So good luck with your Corydoras. Get yourself a little school of them, and have a little party.